My baby is the safe agent. It was born out of like we needed something kind of thing, and then we started realizing the need. I just would encourage, I guess, again, going back to my roots, like if you ever see anything and you feel like there is a need, like don't be afraid to try to like figure out, is there a way to solve this? Because it just takes sometimes just a conversation, like, hey, I was noticing this today, and you talk to somebody and like, oh, and then all of a sudden collectively you've been, now you're surrounded by a bunch of people all like-minded, and like now we're finding a solution to a problem that does really exist, and just not being afraid to put that out there. Because one of the things I not only when I was teaching, I would teach my kids, but also my son. I was like, if I don't ever want you to look back on your life and say, man, I wish I would have done that. So when an opportunity jumps in front of you or comes in front of you, or you feel like this is an opportunity, just go for it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Forward to Extraordinary, a part of the Strictly from Nowhere podcast experiment. I'm your host, Justin Abrams. I'm a serial entrepreneur in pursuit of wisdom with the goal of sharing it with all of you. And that continues for today. One of my curiosities in life, just kind of where we all should be thinking, is in the game of real estate. If you're lucky enough to either rent, to buy, to flip, to use this as an enterprise and be an entrepreneur within the space, it's one of the areas that kind of touches all of our lives. The pursuit of finding home, the pursuit of finding a place where you can raise a family or do whatever you need to do in the safety of your own quarters. That's just something that's just part of all of our dreams. And it's certainly part of my journey. And I share that along the way. And so I'm always curious by folks that have not only a career in the industry of real estate, but that have also tried to assert themselves with innovation. And so that's going to carry us through our episode today. Cathy Hickman, welcome to this episode of Forward to Extraordinary, co-founder of SafeAgent. It's absolutely a pleasure to have you, and I can't wait to unpack your zero to market story.
Thank you, Justin. I'm so excited to be here. I am actually out of Dallas, Texas, so I'm excited to be able to share kind of the experience of, the market, how I kind of went from one avenue of my life up into being an entrepreneur. So thank you so much for having me today on your show. I really appreciate it a lot.
The pleasure is all mine. I'm always looking for a good dance partner. To get us started, I always like humanizing this just a little bit. We're all just the same walk of life. Like we've all began with trials and tribulations. We've all tried to figure out our way. So I'd love to hear your story. What makes you unique? And tell me a little bit about your human experience before we jump into business.
Well, I would say one of the things I find about myself, like before I even got into real estate or entrepreneur, I had a drive just to be a teacher. So I taught for 20 years in the public school system here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Absolutely loved it. For me, it was always fun to watch my kids in their journey, because I worked with 18-year-olds in their last year of high school. Like, what's the journey at the beginning, where are we going middle, and then where are we at the end? And so being able to celebrate them, and funny, I did it for so long that a lot of the kids that I taught are now like all these super professionals, and now we're friends on LinkedIn,
Cool,
which
right?
is always weird to me, because I'm like, I still remember you as an 18-year-old kid. Was like, hey, if I brought you Starbucks, can I come late to class? Like that's the kid. And now they're
Oh,
like
it's so funny.
killing it in, society and in the world. So
Could be our boss these days,
exactly.
25-year-old founders, they're not that far in between.
I know it. A
For
lot of
sure.
them have turned into their doctors. And so I'm always like, oh my gosh, that's probably gonna be like my doctor. So
Oh, we should only be so lucky, right? Just that
right.
extra point of care. Hopefully you did really good by them along the way.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, that's really
So it
exciting, and that's really cool. And we're gonna get into the rest of the story, but I have to reflect. I think I told you before we started the show. My wife's a teacher, so like hats off
is.
to teachers. And what's really interesting about teachers, you'll tell me if it's true from where you live versus where I live.
Yeah.
Man, teachers are entrepreneurial. Summer side hustles along the way, partnerships with spouses, like
Mhm.
wow, teachers just have an opportunity in the world, I think, to kind of think innovatively, think freely, the creativity just from like the energy of students, and just being, getting some clarity throughout your year, call it summer vacation or your winter breaks. Like it just gives you an unbelievable ability to see the world differently. And the
Mhm.
proactive ones become fantastic entrepreneurs. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that. Like, where did your journey of entrepreneurship kind of begin?
Gosh, it was always, I mean, even like you said, when I was teaching, I always had some kind of side hustle, or my husband had a side hustle. We both were doing it together. My husband was a former police officer. And then like he was the associate commander on the SWAT team. So, same thing kind of him. He did shift work. And so we'd have days off. And so any other way we could make a little extra money, trying to impact our community as well as maybe getting an extra vacation over the summer and things like that. So we would do all kinds of stuff, whether my husband ran a solar business for a while. We went from that. And then I did a lot of extra teaching. I would travel around the United States, actually teaching teachers how to teach in my summertime. So I was always doing something extra, just a little bit, just to make a little extra money. But also I love the community and I love meeting new people and kind of experiencing like what they are going through in their journeys. Because then when it came back, when I would be teaching my 18-year-old kids, it was like you could really like kind of impart what you've learned and share with them. And so it was all, I felt for me, it was more of just like alerting. Just I love to learn, so anywhere I could get my foot in the door and try something new, I was always willing to do it. So yeah, I started off kind of doing all that, and then it just kept building and building and building until gosh, I was about teaching for about 15 years, and my mom was purchasing a house, and I was kind of watching the process. And so my husband has this affinity of he loves to like buy a house, we'll live in it for a couple years, sell it, buy another one. And so I gotten so good at like, putting the house up for sale. And I wasn't real estate. I had my same agent, but I would just do it so much. I was like, I got this thing down. Why am I not getting my license? And so,
Cut them out.
exactly. Yeah. So I got my license and was still teaching and selling homes in the summer. And so just kind of just progressed in that aspect.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. So that's the story arc, and it sounds like there was some overlap between your career as an educator. Um, don't mind if I ask, but what subject did you teach in school?
I taught anatomy and physiology, biotechnology, and forensic science.
That's right up my alley.
Yeah,
In another life, in another universe, I would have went that doctor path. So now I understand why you were saying that some of them are doctors. That makes a lot of sense. Wow,
oh
that's
yeah,
really, really cool. That's really cool. And I love that there's like, this crossover between where we often have a saying here at my agency, don't talk about it, be about it, right? Put up
hmm
or shut up. And so I
yeah,
love the idea of like, actually, I'm going to be educating kids, but I'm going to go do this for myself. And we're going to come back and we're going to be the proof. And so I love that.
yeah.
That's just the contagious idea for the next generation. So amazing story arc. Now we're in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
And so, talk to me a little bit about your real estate career. I think that there is a lot of people in my audience that are real estate curious
Yeah,
from an
yeah,
investor's perspective, from buy and rehab, fix and flip, folks that want to just get into secondary property or income property, or there's lots of different avenues. There's commercial aspect, there's multi-home, there's lots of different aspects of the real estate industry, and it can be endless. And so, talk to me a little bit about what your kind of career trajectory was through real estate. And there's nothing more entrepreneurial that comes to my mind than being a real estate agent. I know what that hustle is like, of course, but that's not where the story ends. That's part of the middle aspect of it. So tell me a little bit about the career in real estate.
So like I said, I was still teaching at the time, doing it part time, and then I had the opportunity to where I could either we were like, all right, just jump in it full time and go full force. I had met a wonderful broker, and she was like, Cathy, if you really want to succeed in this industry, like you're gonna have to go full time. And I was like, no income. I don't know if I'm gonna do this, but she's like, just you can do this, just jump in. And so I did, and it took off. It took about a year, and everyone will tell you that it takes about a year to really build up your clientele, to build up those, I guess, relationships with people and things like that. And for people to really know that's what you're doing for a living, because a lot of times people aren't even aware of really what you do for a living. And so until they get that, they don't really realize, hey, I can call you to do my real estate transactions. So kind of started in that way. And then I also found when I was in it, I kind of found a niche. Again, I think it goes back to that teaching part. Even when I was teaching, I would teach my kiddos, like, they sound like little kids, but they weren't. But like just life skills, these kids are they're 18, about to graduate, and they tell me how they're super adults. And then you bring a life problem to them, they're like, I don't know what to do. Okay.
I remember well.
No, I remember being that, and I didn't really have someone kind of helping me through that. And so that's kind of when I would teach. That's exactly how I would do it. So then when I got into real estate, I'm working with a lot of first-time home buyers, and so that's just overwhelming in itself. You're so excited to buy a home, but there's so much to it, and you get so overwhelmed. And then a lot of these buyers would just stop because it was just they didn't know what to do, or they would be so overwhelmed. And so that's kind of where I just would jump in and just tell them, okay, we're going to walk through this every single step. You're going to probably I'm going to become your best friend because I'm going to text you like literally every single day,
What it
but make
takes.
sure that I understand what's going on. And so that kind of became a niche for me, as well as working with my veterans. So again, the same thing, a veteran for their loans and stuff. It's a little bit different. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't specialize in it. So for me, I really have a huge passion for it. My whole family's military. My son is actually contracted through the Army. So it's a big love for me. So also just taking care of my military family. So kind of just jumped in. Just I guess really what it was just seeing a need and then meeting the needs of the clients I met. Just trying to take care of them.
There's so much wisdom in kind of the things that you laid out just now. My guest from yesterday's show, Dan Prattle, he talked about burning the boats. And what he was talking about was like you either go all in or your dreams don't come true.
Right.
And so there's certain signals that we're all looking for as entrepreneurs for like the guts to go all in.
Yeah.
And so that initial moment of you getting that advice about like, hey, you got to go all in, and it's still going to take you about a year to like find your footing and figure this all out.
Yeah.
That advice probably came at the absolute right time. You may have even received that advice a couple of times along the way, but you were a little bit timid. It wasn't the right time. The climate wasn't right. But there was something about the conviction of that wisdom. And so
Yeah.
what I empower for this episode is somebody may be listening right now and find the guts to go all in. And
Yeah.
so I think that's super, super powerful in the wisdom that you're giving right now. Our dreams truly can't go to where they're supposed to go until we're fully all in to committing one way or another. It's not even just about entrepreneurship. It's usually about the big things in life. And so I definitely love that as your first point of wisdom along the way. What I also find really interesting is the commitment to niches. I think real estate in general, from my experience, is kind of like this is your quarterback. This is the
Yeah.
plug, the individual that can help you to sniff out any bullshit, find any imperfections. If you're representing buyer or seller, to really support you at the deal table.
Yeah.
The person that's going to find your appraisals and like your rehab situation. This is a critical individual, and it sounds like that kind of mimics, and you adopted that. Not every agent's the same, right? Like the great ones really operate differently. It sounds like it was very much complementary to the way that your career in education was, and sounds like you were a quarterback for their lives as well. And so it doesn't surprise me that those kind of translate, and it won't surprise me when that same theme translates into your tech business. And
Yes.
so that's really where I got to get this going, right? So I have the whole stage set. We had this career in real estate. Another problem came to
Oh
mind.
yeah.
So you're in real estate, you're seeing all sorts of things happen, and like, why was Cathy the right one to charge its solution? So tell me about SafeAgent. Where did the problem begin, and what are you guys doing today to bring a product to market?
Oh, thank you. So, SafeAgent is actually a wireless panic alert system that works with your smartphone and smartwatch. And so, how it's in the real estate realm. And so, basically, when you make an appointment to go show a property, it will actually, once you show up to the property, it geofence exactly where you're at. You just check in on a little green button saying, I'm here. That live location actually gets sent to whoever you want it to. For me, I have it actually sent to my husband and my son, so they know exactly where I'm at. And then I just go show the property. And then if anything happens within the property, that green button I pushed, it actually turns red. And if I need to, I actually can push that red button, and it will actually dispatch to our live monitoring system. It's actually based in Austin. And they will send you a text message immediately saying, hey, was this a mistake, or did you mean to push the panic button? And you don't respond. And then they call you 30 seconds later. You don't pick it up. then it's an automatic dispatch to the police department in that exact area to your live location. So they can dispatch police to actually where I'm at in that property. To the point, it's so specific, our developer, to where I show a lot of properties like in condos. So you can be like in condo A and condo B. But let's say condo A was fine, but then I go to condo B and I need the police to come. It actually will divert the police to actual condo B. So there's none of them guessing where's she at. We can't find her, and in that aspect. So that's what it is in a nutshell. It's literally a panic button, but it's built on your everyday wear that you always have with you, because there's a lot of things in real estate out there. They have it on jewelry. Like I said, my husband being former police, SWAT, he did NFL security, executive security, now he does corporate security. So he's got all this security background. And he struggles with his, employees they actually wear like lanyards with panic buttons, and they'll forget them, leave it in their car, in their purse. And when something happens, it's not with them. And so he knows my personality. I was like, okay, I'm not. It's got to be cute. Like, it's got to be not an extra thing I got to bring. And so that's when we developed, I can't go anywhere without my phone, and I don't go anywhere without my watch, because you always have it on you. So that's why we developed into making it a lot easier for any real estate agent to use when they're out in the field.
It's a age old scenario. I have elderly grandparents. Transparently and emotionally, you were very gracious in letting me rebook last week. My grandmother actually passed away, which is why we couldn't have the show. But it brings me to the idea of Life Alert. And I think Life Alert did a tremendous job of like super national reach. I think like you say Life Alert, most people, especially in like boomer generation, just in my generation, is going to for sure know what the Life Alert emergency button for the elderly is. And so I think just with that concept in mind, this seems very much like that, but there's a difference.
Yeah.
That button is direct to dispatch. Your button is interfacing through an application.
Yes.
And so my curiosities are like, I've built many an application, many for the real estate industry, of course. What were some of the tribulations that you went through in trying to build this product? For example, the first thing that comes to mind is like low internet connectivity areas. And so like, what were some of the challenges in building this initial application that you came across? And like, how'd you overcome some of those obstacles?
Well, a lot of it was truly just through a ton of testing. So my developer, he's fantastic. And so when we were building it out, which, the whole thing actually derived from, I had a couple of altercations in a sense to where, for example, I went to go show a home and it was vacant. And well, it's supposed to be vacant. I go and I try to get in, and someone opens the door from the inside and then slams the door in my face. And I was like, okay, they're not supposed to be there. Kind of creeps me out. I called my husband. He was like, call the police. So I called the police and they come out. And so I got home and we started talking. He goes, you know what? What would you have done if that person took your phone and grabbed you and yanked you in there? Because I was at the door holding it. And I was like, I don't know. So of course his mind is like, okay, I don't like this. We've got to figure out a system. So that was one of a couple of other instances and had us help develop it. So then our developer, we started working with it. And so, every time I go show property, so it could be, all over the DFW area, just like I'm sure in New York, you've got areas that have a lot of internet, no issues with the cell phone. And then you go to some and you're out there showing, you can't get anything, especially I have friends that show like their farm and ranch, they're showing like 100 acres, you're in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Type of thing. And so that's the kind of stuff we would just start going out and we'd start testing it. And then he would go back and he'd go back to the, basically the workflow, figuring it out. And then, having the phone actually interact with the watch because it's a companion app on the watch, and making sure they're connecting. And then we had to figure out what's the best way, making sure if I'm logged in here, that it's also logging in my phone. So a lot of it was just spending a lot of trial and error constantly. When I'm doing all my showings, I'd be doing all that. And funny enough, when we were developing it, a lot of my clients knew I was developing it. And they loved it because they were like, wow, if anything happens, we actually can get police to come out. And I was like, I know, it's fantastic. Right. So it was kind of fun too to be sharing that on the journey with a lot of my clients when I was showing them the properties of us doing it. But yeah, it was a lot of just trial and error and him going back to his brainiac self and going back and working through all those processes for us. I was the little guinea pig just running all over the DFW area for him.
You know what? There are so many people out there, especially with the AI revolution. There's so many
Hmm.
people out there that are non-technical, but they
Yeah.
have an idea that relies on technology. So,
Hmm.
like this episode serves so many people that are just going to be like, I have an idea. I just don't even know how to begin. Like,
Hmm.
where do I go to get started? So, tell me a little bit about your process. I hear the story. There was like an altercation scenario. You went home, you and your husband are like, we got to come up with a solution. Like,
Yeah.
that's taking you a departure from your current career and your
Hmm.
focus and whatever he's
Yeah.
working on to like, are we really going to build a tech company right now?
Hmm.
Like there's another like burn the boat scenario, so to speak. And it's
Yeah.
like, am I pivoting my life? Is this complementary? Is this like just for my business and a differentiator for my clients? Like there's lots of things to think about, but at the end of the day, you take a non-technical individual that has a problem that technology is capable of solving. And
Yeah.
so what I'd love to uncover, just because I think it would be valuable to folks that are at that moment too,
Hmm.
what was your original ideation process? Was it like you and your husband came around with a sheet of paper and you like listed all the things that you wish existed in the world? Was it you wanted to build a prototype with AI? Like what happened when you guys were initially trying to get this out of your head and into
Yeah.
reality?
Oh, well, like I said, it was from that scenario. And then I had an open house scenario to where, again, it was a situation to where my phone was down. And I have a habit, I leave my phone places. And then I was showing a thing and, everything was fine. But again, we were started talking through it. And he was like, yeah, but what if you couldn't reach your phone? What if,
Mm,
all these what ifs? Because again, with his background in security, anytime I would even show a property, I had a special code. I had to text him so that way he knows like no one could have taken my phone and said, I'm good, I'm here. I also had to, map out everywhere I was going. I mean, we had all this stuff put in place that from his background that we felt like, okay, this would tackle if I really did need help. And then, like I said, on that one, the vacant house, that wouldn't have helped me at all. And so after about that, he was done. He's like, we got to figure this out. So we started doing research and realized there were some products out there. And in real estate, we've got some great products that help you prior to showing. We've got ones that actually you can run background checks on people, kind of know who you're meeting or who you're working with, things like that. But there wasn't anything that when I'm actually at the home or the open house, what's protected me at that moment, what can get police there when I need them right then. And so that's what we saw was missing.
so
So
interesting.
then we started going to a bunch of security tech events all through the Dallas Fort Worth area, and through that process and his connections, we started meeting more people in that tech and security thing. And so it's kind of funny because when we both sat down, we were like, we just got to figure this out. We just got to, what can we do? Started connecting with more people on LinkedIn, and through all those connections, that's where we ended up meeting our developer. And so, and he just
Amazing.
loves to build. He loves to build stuff. He's
Of
always
course.
doing it.
One of
And
us.
so, yeah, he's like, and when he saw that there was a need, and he was like, yeah, let me do this for you. And so that's kind of how it started, because it really, for us, initially it kind of started with like, he hated the fact I'm always showing and I didn't have anything that if I need them, I need them now kind of thing. But it also it goes back to even our career paths. We've always wanted to serve and help people. So it was just like, we could build something that if someone really does need it, they can get the help they need. So that became the next drive. It was not just for myself, but anyone in our kind of real estate realm. If you need help, we want to be able to get that to you. Or another I guess always another tool in your tool belt, because you don't want to just use one thing. You never do. You want to use multiples, right? And so just giving someone another option, another tool, so if they need it, they have it.
It's one of those things in life that it's like, could you afford to not use this? Like if you go your entire career and never push that red button, God bless. But the one
Right?
time you need it and it wasn't there, like could you afford not to have this? So first
Right.
of all, your husband's your co-founder.
Yes. Uh-huh.
What's his
Yeah.
name?
Brian Hickman.
Brian, you sound like a legend. Thank you for your service. It's just a tremendous story, right? Like most people in your field do not have Brian helping them to be safe behind the scenes. They really don't. You know, they're lucky if they have a family at all that even cares about what they're doing. I
Yeah.
mean, my mom's an entrepreneur, almost 40-year entrepreneur. She
Yeah.
leaves the house in the morning, nobody knows where she went. And she's on the road all day long. She's with customers, she's going in and out of homes. Like she's just out. So I think I need this for my mom. You
Yeah.
know, like, and
Yeah.
she's not a real estate agent. She's not, she's
Mhm.
in that, she's tangential, but this has application outside of just real estate industry. This could
Definitely.
be
Yeah.
door to door solicitation. Like it could be anywhere where you're like coming
Hmm.
into a dwelling or going off the grid or a little bit, and you want to
Yeah.
have something that can just bail you out just in
Mhm.
case. So, Brian, sounds like you're a legend. Anyway, what I also kind of want to just point out is the inception of moving into a tech company. The easy part, and I'm sure you will agree with this now that the tech is a little bit behind you, the easy part is building the idea.
Yeah.
First part is getting it, the first hard part is getting it out of your brain,
Yeah.
getting it translated into technology that works.
Yeah.
The easy part is building it. The
Hmm.
hard part is selling it, just like with
Yes.
everything else. So
Yes.
talk to me a little bit about where you guys are at right now. First of all, how long has the application existed?
Mhm.
Do you currently have active users outside of yourself? And what are some of the struggles that you're up against now in trying to find product market fit and scale?
Perfect. That was a great question. I love that. So we will be in business for about a year in August.
Amazing.
We'll be up and running. And so yeah, about a year. And we do have currently people that are using our platform. You know, it's an app. You just download the app. So we do have real estate agents right now that are currently using it besides myself, as well. So that's always been good.
Amazing.
But a lot of it is I've been trying to just partner up with other either brokers in the area. I did partner up with they're called the WRE News. It's a big publication out kind of in the West area. They have over like 3 million subscribers. So kind of partnered up with them. They were helping put out some webinars about it as far as that goes. So we've been doing that. I've got a couple of local, like I said, brokerages we've partnered up with to help kind of push it out as well. And then through some of our connections or my husband's connections through the security world, they're also kind of help pushing it out. But I will share kind of what you're bringing up. What we did notice, again, you start thinking, right? Okay, I'm in real estate, but you know, if you look at real estate agents, what you'll find though is that they're only tempted to really use it if they're working. And you do find that in the real estate world, a lot of agents aren't working all the time. So, you know, that kind of like slows that piece down. So that was one thing I guess I didn't anticipate when we kind of started it because for me, it's my livelihood. So I'm always out hustling every single day, in order to, make my goals that I have for the quarters. But we started realizing, well, not everybody, it's not maybe not their livelihood, it's not their passion, so they're just going to look at it differently. So in that aspect, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to get the real estate agents to actually use the product. Every time I present it, I do lots of presentations. Like everybody loves it. They see the value in it. They know it's necessary. But again, it goes back to if I'm not working all the time, do I need it? Even though I'll still bring up the fact, we do have homeowners insurance and we do pay car insurance. And I hope you never have to use any of those insurance, but you always
That's right.
have them because if you do, if something does happen, you've got that covered. So that's what we've kind of found is that it's been a little bit difficult. So with that, we started thinking, I have a son, the one that's contracted through the Army, he goes to Texas A&M. And we were down there probably about 6 months ago for something. And we noticed, there's tons of people like at 10 o'clock at night running outside, and, they have little call boxes and, people will have their phones in their pockets or maybe in a sports bra or their pant leggings. And my husband started thinking, and he goes, what if those people that are running, it'd be so easy to come up and grab somebody. And then your phone's in your pocket, it's in your sports bra, and they grab you across your neck. How are you going to call for help? But if you have your smartwatch, you just push a button. So he again the wheels started thinking too, because we had every time we present, I had a lot of my agents say, "Well, I got a kid in college. What can you do for that?" I'm not there. I can't be there that fast, And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I didn't think of that because my son's at college. And so we started thinking about that. And so now we're in the works of finishing out another app called Alert Pro. That one is actually for every single person. You don't have to be of any real estate or anything like that. It literally is for anyone to use, to where you can basically, wherever you're at, you can basically turn it on. Hey, I'm at this area. And then if you need, the panic button's already ready and set and you're geo-fenced. And if you need to push it, it's there, type of thing. So we're in the process of finishing that out for, after, just going to so many events and people asking, but what about my kids? And you start thinking, yeah, what about, that's so important. What about our kids that are away from home, type of thing?
I'm really aware of, and we use it in our family. My co-founder uses it in his family, is Life 360. And I think what's really great about that product is, it's a little big brother. You can actually keep an eye on and physical location. I think you differentiate, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you differentiate a little bit away from that. It's not about spying on your loved ones or like knowing their location. It's giving you basically your own bodyguard, like in a scenario, you have a panic button. And scenario XYZ, right? Like it's up to you as the person using the application to decide what does panic look like, and is now the moment I push my button. So it's really not a tracking app. This is really not about like oversight of your college kid. This is like giving them freedom with the power to self-arrest, self-secure themselves. And so I love that differentiation. I think there's definitely value in that. People want autonomy. Nobody wants to be spied on. It's bad enough everybody's got a camera in your face these days. So this is really about like freedom to roam with security protocol attached to you. Now, one of the things that I see that is like a challenge to overcome, I'm guilty of this too. This is a smartwatch, but non-application driven smartwatch.
Right. Yes.
So it wouldn't work on my device, but this is my everyday wear. Not everybody's wearing an Apple Watch. And there are certainly, of course, Android network watches and things like that. Everybody, for the most part, does have the phone on them.
Yes.
But are you thinking about getting into decentralized wearables? Like a clickable button or lanyard, or the things that like were not super fashionable for you at the beginning of the idea, but that maybe make it the ability to free ourselves from the device and remove that as a limiting factor. So I wonder if you guys are moving into the hardware space as well.
Right now we're not, and the only reason is kind of going back to, again, with my husband's experience. Part of the thing that he found, again, is with the hardware piece, is a lot of times either it's not that people don't want to wear it, but they forget it. And then what we also did find is that, like I said, in real estate, there is a couple of hardware pieces, and they actually are cute little pieces of jewelry. But once the battery dies on it, it's not a replaceable battery. Even on his stuff, it's not a replaceable battery. He has to actually buy a new unit. And so thinking as a consumer, I was like, okay, it'll be great for as long as it lasts, but the minute it dies, am I going to remember then to re-up that, product? And so that's kind of what we just stuck with the phones and the watches. And you're right. There are a lot of my friends that use our product, but they don't have a watch. But what's so great is it does work on their phones that they have
too, right?
All the time. And we've even made it to where you can, instead of pushing a button on there, you can use your action buttons and things like that. Just trying to even making it that ease of use for people.
I love the idea. I mean, for me, it's super interesting. You're always just like, do I need this? Like me, I'm fine going out into the world. But man, I spend many a night in New York City and certainly feel uncomfortable when it's a little bit too late and I'm just walking around after a networking event. Like the application is kind of endless. I think one of the challenges is the marketing strategy, getting people to feel enough pain to make the decision. So that's one of my last questions for you is, as you're building this product to market, one of the challenges is, of course, customer adoption, product market fit, and just generally spreading the word out. And it sounds like you're doing all the right things as far as going to conferences and like hand-to-hand combat sales, and like you're doing all the things. What are some of the things that you're experimenting with? Podcasting is obviously one of them, but what is one of the things that you're experimenting with that gives you the ability to evangelize the story, to demonstrate the pain point, and to secure customer attention?
So I've been trying to do a lot more of webinars with people, like really explaining what it is, because it's just like anything. You can see a product, you can kind of read it, but until someone actually explains how it works, what it looks like, how it, I guess going back to that teaching realm, like really like, but making it short and sweet and fun, not boring. I'm not going to read off a PowerPoint or anything like that. And so I've been experimenting a lot more with doing the webinars. Also just making just videos, putting them out there, explaining what it is, trying to have people understand, the value in it, and, why need it. But it's always the time like when something happens, you're like, dang, I wish I would have had something, that easy for me to use type of thing. But a lot of it is just trying to educate and getting it out there. Like I said, going to events, but in webinars and things like that.
What I love about this type of a play, because the market of who this applies to is so big. The problem is pretty acute. Like you're in a sketchy situation, push your SafeAgent. Like the problem is pretty acute. It's up to you to determine where panic and pain is. The market is like so vast. This is when it gets like really fun because you can do like large scale advertisement plays. Like I fully see this like on a billboard. Like it's just because you just have such a wide audience that you have to cast a net on. It's less like strategic advertisement dollars, or I'm going to a specialized conference where I know like my ideal customer profile is going to be. It's much more broad. So are you doing some of the other more traditional marketing, like doing magazine level advertisement, doing radio, like all sorts of traditional things in marketing and advertising? I'm assuming you're doing some of the social media stuff, but like, tell me a little bit about the marketing strategy. And the reason why I'm asking is because lots of people are able to do the easier side of the thing, which is build it. The hard part is marketing and selling it. So I'd love to get a little bit of your formula. What is the breadth of marketing that you guys are trying?
So, like I said, we've done a lot of the social media stuff. We hired a couple of marketing. We've hired at least one marketing company to kind of help push us out and get it out there. I was in talks with another company that does like the commercials, like because everybody watches streaming TV now, and then but you have the ads. Like we've spoken to a couple of companies about what that would look like, that piece, putting it out there, and everything else. I've also been applying for going to some pitches in front of investors as well, seeing if I can earn my opportunity just to stand in front of them and, hey, here's our product, what do you think, type things. So I've been pushing on that side of it as well, trying to get out there. We've also connected with a fantastic, he is a public speaker, helps you actually get out there, public speak, get in front of people. He trains you, teaches you what you need to do in order to get that opportunity to talk in front of people and large groups of people. So I've been doing on that aspect. But on the other side, the other thing too about us is that we actually have built this up from the ground up. I have not taken out any loans or anything like that. It's completely self-funded. Thank you.
To that.
But with that, it's a little bit more difficult because, trying to find the funds to do all that amazing, the marketing that can exist is so incredible. And I've met so many fantastic people that you're like, man, that is so great. And I'm like, I'm just not there yet. I'm going to get there, but I'm just not there yet type of thing. But those have been all the talks that we've been in right now with several people kind of all across.
The Bootstrappers badge is an award that somebody should be giving out somewhere, but I'll give you the Bootstrappers badge.
Thank
because
you.
I'll tell you why. One of the hardest things in business is financial discipline. I have experienced all the pain that there is to experience in finance land. Not knowing your numbers, being upside down, missing your payrolls, leveraging your home for debt, taking on investors, like you name it. I've done all of those. The thing that always comes back to me is there's nothing more powerful than bootstrapping, because the decisions that you make are strategic. They're not frivolous. They're emotional. So it matters. Like if I take this bet, it has to work, or at least I have to have gotten the data from it. It can't just be like, oh, frivolous. I can't just hire frivolously.
Yeah.
I can't travel frivolously. It really, the bootstrapper's dilemma is really about financial discipline and making accurate, deliberate decisions. And so I often encourage people to go the bootstrap route.
Hmm.
Leverage yourself in sweat, leverage your network in the form of equity and opportunity to participate in the business. Do as
Yeah.
much as you can, burn your midnight oil without burning your boat and going for both feet in the sun. Do as much as you can on your own independent budget. And so much so that so much of this can be done on a $0 budget. We're usually paying for access to someone's brain and experience, but so
Hmm.
much of these things are really about like, if I sat down for a weekend and learned the basics of X, I could do it on my own. I could do it enough to at least catch a signal as to whether it is worth it for me to put my money behind. And so
Hmm.
I love the bootstrapper. I think that that makes for an incredible founder where you don't have the wet blanket, the stifleness of debt or of an
Hmm.
investor or friends and family around that you have to perform. I have to do this. You have the luxury of saying, "Well, how hard do I want to work today?"
Yeah.
You're the only one in your way, and so
Yes.
that's important, especially when you have co-founders. You know,
Hmm.
your co-founder is your husband. My co-founder is my best friend from when I'm a kid.
Yeah.
That makes it even harder when you're not bootstrapping because who's right to spend the money? Who needs to spend the money? Who's got a bigger issue that needs to be solved with money? That's not really the problem. The problem is like we need to collectively make decisions for the best of the business. And so I love that story. This transparently, strictly from nowhere, was built by bootstrappers for bootstrappers in its earliest days,
I
and
love
so
it.
I'm
Yeah,
very
no,
fond of that path, and I think it pays a huge dividend. And
mhm.
my assumption is you still own 100% of the company.
We do. Yep, we do.
Well, that's
Yeah.
called leverage. So if you're going into
Yes.
pitch slams and all sorts of fun stuff, investors always want to hear that, right? That's a great thing. And so that sounds like all good opportunity. You know, as we round third base,
Yeah.
Kathy, I often give my guests the opportunity. These conversations usually drum up something, and the last thing I want is for you to leave the discussion and say, "Oh, I wish we would have covered that topic." So now's
Yeah.
that time. Has anything come to mind? Is there anything that you want to talk about you, about entrepreneurship, about the product, about anything that you've been thinking about before we travel home?
I would just like you kind of like we kind of even started this, like of course my baby is the safe agent. It was born out of like we needed something kind of thing, and then we started realizing the need. I just would encourage, I guess again going back to my roots, like if you ever see anything and you feel like there is a need, like don't be afraid to try to like figure out is there a way to solve this, because it just takes sometimes just a conversation, like hey, I was noticing this today, and you talk to somebody and like oh, and then all of a sudden collectively you've been, now you're surrounded by a bunch of people all like minded, and like now we're finding a solution to a problem that does really exist, and just not being afraid to put that out there, because one of the things I not only when I was teaching, I would teach my kids, but also my son. I was like, if I don't ever want you to look back on your life and say, man, I wish I would have done that. So when an opportunity jumps in front of you or comes in front of you, or you feel like this is an opportunity, just go for it. Because then at least you can say, hey, I did it, I failed, but at least I know I did it, and that's not where I'm supposed to, that's my journey, that's not my journey, that's not my path, versus, man, this was right in front of me, I should have taken it, and I didn't, and then you think back, like, what could have happened? And so I've always lived my life of, I don't want to ever sit back and wonder what could have happened, and I'm like, the worst is I'm going to fail, and, okay, I fail, pick myself back up, and get back to work, and figure it out. So, just trying to just and empower people out there that, don't miss your opportunity. Don't be afraid of that opportunity. And if you are a little timid, maybe just have a conversation with someone. And sometimes it's all that takes is that person, like my broker, jump in with both feet, Kathy, quit holding back. And that's
That's
all it
right.
took. And I jumped in. So, that would kind of be like my thing to put out to, everybody out there.
Well, I think it's tremendous wisdom. I talk about this often in parallel, so you'll be in good company with that type of wisdom. Yeah, I think one of the hard parts historically has always been like validating an idea, getting it out of our brain, and like, should this exist? Does it already exist? Is this really a problem? We leverage tools today. Like there's no easier time to get an idea out of your brain into reality than today,
Yeah.
especially with the advent of AI. And
Yeah.
so what I find very interesting about your story is you went to work to be an educator for 20 years. In those 20 years, a software play did not call to you.
Oh,
And
no.
so this may take a full career to get to the next opportunity that you'll hopefully embrace and become passionate about. And so what I love about your story is really the index on patience and the index of just putting out goodwill and living a virtuous life. And ultimately the cards reveal themselves to you. If I would have told you 20 years ago while you're sitting in a classroom that you'd be a tech founder in
Oh, no.
2026, you would have laughed.
Oh,
And
oh,
so here,
absolutely.
and so here we are, right? And I
Yes.
love that story arc because it's so classic for so many people. You know, so many people are like staring retirement and they have so
Mhm.
much energy left in their life. What do I do? And so the
Yeah,
barrier to entry for entrepreneurship is you or me.
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm my own biggest doubter. And
Yeah.
so I love your wisdom. I think that that fits in tremendously nicely.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. I do.
Well, Cathy, it's been a pleasure to host you on the show. And as I always do, I wish you and I wish SafeAgent and I wish your partner, Brian, forward to extraordinary. Thanks for
Thank
joining the
you.
episode.
Appreciate it. I so much appreciate this a lot, Justin. Thank you.
Absolutely. See you.
Okay. Bye.